So let's just get started. The best way of understanding what knowledge for policy is about is remembering what life was like beforehand. If you're a policymaker, like this chap here, and he's looking for information about evidence about, say, migration, and he asked the European Commission, imagine the European Commission said, well, you're looking for some scientific knowledge. So let's start with the Joint Research Centre. And you'd go to the corporate website of the Joint Research Centre, where you'd find a publication database, you'd find a data catalogue, so there's publications and data sets about migration. You'd find a knowledge centre, which is this cross-EC team building evidence for policy in migration, and you'd find a subsite there with pages and PDFs and news and links. Among those news, there would be, and there's another website, and in that website, you've got two more data catalogues, including some of these data catalogues include content from the JRC data catalogue, but it includes data from around Europe and around the world as well. And if that's not enough, you'll also discover what we call a competence centre. Now, competence centres don't look at vertical domains like migration or bioeconomy. Competence centres provide a set of tools for analysing different knowledge domains. And the Foresight Competence Centre has a tool called Megatrends. And one of the megatrends is migration. So there's quite a lot of knowledge in there too. This is slightly problematic for the user because even once he or she is finished going through all of that, there's another 12 DGs which have something to say about migration, and they each have a website. So the idea here was to build a cross-EC platform called Knowledge for Policy. And this screenshot here is from last year when we had 9 knowledge services. So there's Foresight there, and there's migration and demographics down here. But you can search all of their knowledge from the homepage. And if you do that, you can then refine the search. You can limit the search to a particular knowledge service or a particular type of content or the organization which published it. Everything is organized and classified using a global thesaurus. So you can refine your search across all of these different publishing teams. Essentially, what Knowledge for Policy is about is this. The content here is knowledge for policymakers. So we are trying to build a website which is useful to the scientists who have the scientific knowledge and the policymakers who need the scientific knowledge. And we also want to build this website to be useful for knowledge brokers whose job it is to bridge these two worlds, because it's very difficult to build a website for two audiences which are so different from each other. We're trying to bring them together. It's very difficult. And we're being ambitious too. I mean, at the moment, most of the publishers are working inside the JRC, and most of the people they're talking to are EC policymakers. But we are talking about curating scientific knowledge for policy from across Europe. So scientists across Europe contributing to the knowledge base, and that knowledge being processed for policymakers across Europe. So why should the effort be limited to just EC policymakers? Now, the way we've built it, sorry for the diagram, but it's important. The way we've built it is as follows. I just showed you the homepage. You can search the entire knowledge base. Everything that these different knowledge services publish is in one database. So we don't have knowledge silos. And everything in that database is described using a global thesaurus, so a single taxonomy. And there's about 1,500 terms in that taxonomy. But you will find these different knowledge services within the site. So if you go to, for example, the knowledge service on migration and demographics, you'll find that if you do a search from there, you're only searching a subset of the knowledge in the knowledge base. These pieces of knowledge have all been linked to the knowledge service for migration and demographics. So imagine they upload into the knowledge base a data visualization about migration. But that's also relevant to the competence center on the Foresight for megatrends for migration. So they can link to it too. So the same piece of knowledge can appear in different knowledge services in different contexts. And critically, excuse me for a sec, critically, when a piece of knowledge has been linked to a knowledge service, that knowledge service can describe it using a local taxonomy. So when you do a search from within a knowledge service, you're doing a search of a subset of the knowledge base using a much more granular taxonomy. Now, in knowledge management terms, this is the technical term for this is having your cake and eating it, getting the best of both worlds, because it means that we don't have knowledge silos, but you can have a really, really granular search. And in addition to that, within a knowledge service, it's not just a search interface. Within a knowledge service, you can have what we call the policy layer, which is extra content created by the publishers to make that scientific knowledge more accessible and useful to policymakers. And I'll be talking more about the policy layer very soon. And you'll also find in the future, you'll find communities, because people might cluster together in a community for interested in migration, and over here they might be interested in foresight. So they cluster together in communities of interest, and I'll be talking more about communities later as well. So just keep this in your head, and as we go on to the next step.